So I'm just going to go right in. This is your girl, Queen 504, with another episode of Catching the Cut. Um, and we are going to just go right on into this subject that I chose tonight. And it is pretty much talking about what is beyond Soldier Slim. We talk about Slim's death and how he died and how there may be a fall guy that took the fall for Slim's death. So I want to go beyond Slim's death. There was an article that was written by Tori McAdams that uh, did an exploration of the untimely demise of some of New Orleans's key players. Some that uh, were with all different labels. Of course, we had Big Boy, we had Cash Money, um, and it was kind of a back and forth between those two before No Limit kind of came along and jumped into the fray. Um, so I'm gonna go down a list of some of the rappers that we have had here in New Orleans, and we'll talk about how they died. Um, we'll talk about maybe the biggest song that they had while they were here, but we'll also talk about how they died. Um, as long as rap has existed in New Orleans, rappers have been both been born witness to and have been victimized by violence and institutional justice. Artists who came of age in the 80s and 90s saw New Orleans rap make an evolution from imitating New York to something that was just wholly its own. We created our own sound basically because we didn't want to sound like New York. We didn't want to sound like the West Coast. So we created something that was our own and watched it grow from its infancy to what we have today. Um, the city saw a lot of violence that the violence pretty much touched every household, you can say, directly or indirectly. You had violence touching all of the households in New Orleans. And when I say indirectly, you have to hire more cops because, and then don't get me wrong, back in the day when you had some of these deaths, you also had bad cops, i.e., Antoinette Frank. If you're from the New Orleans area, you're familiar with Antoinette Frank and the corrupt cops that she was convicted with back when they did their thing. But that's neither here nor there. I'm not here to talk about them. I'm here to talk about these we'll, we'll call them legends. I don't want to call them heroes. That's what this young lady called them in when she wrote this piece. She called them the rap heroes of New Orleans. I don't want to call them heroes. I'll call them legends because they are legends in their own right. They, were creating lanes and paths for other rappers to be able to come behind them and not only follow in their footsteps, but advance their footsteps. So I'm definitely wanting to talk about the impact that they had on the New Orleans music scene. The first New Orleans rap group, um, New York International, featuring a young Manny Fresh and future No Limit Soldier Mia X, debuted in 1984. That's something that people never talk about. But in 1984, that's what you had. In the following decade, and we're talking about the police, in the following decade, with the startlingly corrupt police force patrolling the city's cracked streets, the murder rate spiraled out of control. It cratered in 1994 when 421 people, almost 86 out of 100,000, would be killed, and 9 NOPD officers were charged with accepting over $100,000 in bribes from undercover FBI operatives. Yes, it got down and dirty in New Orleans, i.e., Antoinette Frank and her crew. Google her. Google her. That's all I'm gonna say. Um, it's small wonder that rap, which communicates the anxieties and bravado of put upon communities, would thrive in these conditions. While the rap business and music media focused on LA and New York, a cottage industry of seminal labels, Cash Money, Mobo, Big Boy, and later No Limit emerged from the blight. Mobo Joe Payne's, Charles Big Boy Temple, and the Williams brothers, Brian Baby and Ronald Slim, hustled um, cassettes, CDs by artists whose names were never spelled the same way twice. Even with Baby, some places he got Stunner spelled Stunna, in other place in a video. One of the videos he has on a bandana where it's spelled Stunta, Stunta. Um, and that it was just a New Orleans thing. Some things you just have to take as a New Orleans thing. Um, most of the city's rappers, producers, and DJs have survived the ongoing neglect. Many have become stars, but some weren't given the chance. New Orleans rappers have been murdered with astonishing frequency. For some of the dead, a combination of appalling policing, limited local press, and a lack of internet served to obscure the facts of their demise. For others, their most reported upon moments were their final ones, an indignity that ultimately prizes their gross premature deaths over their infinitely complex humanity. You have people like VL Mike. These are some of Baby's people. Lil Derek, 12 o'clock. But a primer on some artists whose music and lives are illustrative of New Orleans rap history. They deserve better than to be relegated to the back cabinet and cold cases of the NOPD. Um, so let me start with, I was gonna start with Sporty T, but let me pull out um Tim Smooth. I'm gonna start with Tim Smooth. Let me just grab this right here. Now, I'm starting with Tim Smooth because I actually met Tim Smooth. Um, Tim Smooth was a best banker like myself, and I met him several times at a place over on Stump Boulevard in Gretna, um, called Hip Hop World. And he would go there and buy clothes. He seemed to be friendly or friend Hip Hop World. And so every so often I would go in and Tim would be in there. Um and he would just be in there just shooting the breeze with the two brothers that own Hip Hop World. Um Tim was so debonair, like his hair. I used to every time I would see him, I would ask him if I could touch his hair. This nigga hair was so his shit was laid better than mine. I'd be like, damn, Tim, let me just touch your hair. And so Tim Smooth did die at the age of 39. And I'm going to read the newspaper article that was released when he died um, in 2011. Uh, and it wasn't a murder, but still, I kind of wanted to talk about Tim Smooth because he fits in that time frame of the other rappers that I am going to talk about. Um, Rapper Tim Smooth died at the age of 39 early this morning after a long battle with cancer. I didn't know he had cancer. Whenever he would come to, I mean, the last time I saw him, he still, we talked about the hair. He still had the hair and all of um, that I loved about him. So I didn't know he had cancer, and this came as a shock to me. But Tim Smooth was born Timothy Smoot, and he was known as the Knight from Kennedy Heights. The rapper was considered a pioneer of New Orleans hip hop. He established his reputation as an MC while he was still a teenager. In an interview in 2010, he recalls sneaking out of L.W. Higgins High School in Marrero at lunchtime to battle other rappers on their school's playgrounds. In 1991, he released his first single, I Gots to Have It, for Dallas based Yo Records, and label hopped after that, putting out albums on Houston's Rap A Lot label and the local indies Big Boy and Mobo. I don't know if that's Mabo or Mobo. I haven't heard of them. I'm sorry, guys. I'm a transplant into New Orleans. So forgive me. Um, at Big Boy Records, he met and mentored Mystical. During a respite from his illness, Smooth made an appearance on the mic with his old friend during a House of Blues concert last December, which again goes back to 2010. Had I never met Tim, I would be a totally different artist, Michael Mystical Tyler told the Times Picayune music writer Keith Sparrow. He even co-wrote the title cut with me on Mind of Mystical. Thanks for the memories. News of the rapper's death spread rapidly today via blog and social networking sites. The newly formed hip hop collective New Orleans Union for Entertainment posted a tribute on their webpage. DJ E.F. Cutton, a longtime friend of Smoots, wrote a heartfelt obituary on his site. I hope they remember how he was. He was a friend to everybody. Everybody loved him, said his sister Nicole Smoot. He never had a fight in his whole life, and he was 39 years old. He was a happy person. He was always cracking jokes, and even with the cancer, he never didn't have a smile on his face. Um, and that's how he was. When I would see him, I remember the first time I met him, and I don't know what we expect out of like rappers when we meet them, or NFL players or NBA players, but you always expect, or at least have this image in your mind because this is the image that they've put into the music. So it's what you've come to believe about them. So when I went into the shop, into hip hop world that day, and I met him for the first time, I was truly looking outside for what car he could have been driving. I'm like, well, I don't see like a BMW or a Benz or none of that out here in the parking lot. And turns out he was in a simple old Nissan. It was like a brown Nissan, brownish. Nissan is what he was driving. And, you know, I don't know. I just expected different because of what they put in their music. So when you meet them and it's something other than what you thought, you just kind of like, wow, oh, okay. But that made me know that he was a regular person, and that's exactly what he was. Because from the time we walked in, it's like he was just friendly with us, and it wasn't until I guess we had talked for a minute, and he was just surprised, I guess, that we were just talking like regular people. And he was like, "Y'all don't know who I am." And in my head, I'm thinking a Mardi Gras Indian because of the hair. His hair was just so fucking laid. I'm just thinking a Mardi Gras Indian for sure. Um, and that's when, he was like, "I'm Tim Smooth." I was like, "What?" And I guess he was kind of shocked that, people were in there that didn't know who he was. And, I explained to him that I wasn't from there. I heard his music, but for some reason, I didn't know what he looked like. So I never would have guessed who he was, but he was real friendly. So I did want to start with him because he was one, again, that I had met. So next, we're going to go with Sporty T. Let's talk Sporty T. Sporty T was very, very sporty. In 1986, the Teenage Ninja Crew, DJ Baby T and MCs Gregory D and Sporty T released We Destroy on Miami's Foresight Records. It was the first New Orleans rap single. When the crew split, Gregory D joined forces with a then upcoming producer Manny Fresh. But Sporty T went solo and signed with Big Boy Records. His first effort, Jackin' for Bounce 94, was a heavier and harder brand of bounce than was being produced in the Crescent City. The genre standard samples Trigger Man and the Brown Beat begat lighter fare, and Sporty T largely eschewed them in favor of 808s and funk and soul jazz samples. In the late 90s, with Bounce Passe, Sporty T continued to rap under his own moniker, and did some side projects with the Wet Boys and the Wild Boys. During this period, he recorded numerous disses aimed at Cash Money Records, including the particularly biting Drop That Soldier Rag. Oh my gosh, I remember that video. If y'all have not seen that video, Drop That Soldier Rag. I didn't put it in my description box, but I'll have to drop it in the description box. So if y'all haven't seen the video, Drop That Soldier Rag. Drop That Soldier Rag was a diss aimed at Juvenile and Baby. Pretty much Cash Money. But you had one nigga in there that was dressed like Juve. It had a soldier rag around his head. And you had one nigga supposed to be Baby. The video is a whole mess. I remember where I was when that video came out, and it was not a good day. It was not a good day. Um, so go and see that video. It's a reference to Juvenile's accessory of choice, and his debut album Soldier Rags. Internet Scuttlebutt has it that the disc recorded with the Wild Boys was secretly funded by Master P, and that the group was comprised of No Limit artists rapping under different aliases. And so people ask where the No Limit Cash Money beef started. So here you have the Wild Boys, and I'm sorry, y'all. I keep scratching my nose because I'm nervous. I'm nervous to talk in front of people. So it's just my anxiety got me doing that. But I ain't on I ain't on that stuff. I'm not on that stuff. Just want y'all to know I ain't on that stuff. Um, so when you look back at where did the No Limit Cash Money beef start, it would be right here because they think that, well, the streets, I'm just gonna put it on the streets do everything right. That the streets are saying that Master P funded this song, this song and this video aimed at Cash Money, more specifically Juvenile and Baby. So you have to go back and watch that video, and I'll drop it in the description to make sure that y'all can just go to it from my page. Um, so let's talk about how Sporty T was killed. Um, so Sporty T was asleep on July 15th, 2008, when gunmen fired AK-47 rounds into his FEMA trailer, killing the rapper. Police were said to be unsure whether Sporty T was 39 or 41 at the time of his death. Um, I don't even know if they ever figured that out. But as the family gathered at the trailer to grieve Sporty's passing, Gregory D arrived at the FEMA trailer, and he was in tears. Um, Sheila Vine, Sporty T's sister, clarified to the Times-Picayune reporter Ramon Vargas that the man they later described as sobbing was the final surviving member of this childhood rap trio. So only Gregory D remains from when they first got together and formed their little rap trio. And Gregory D is a mess. He's a mess. He's a whole mess. Go follow him on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. He have Twitter fingers. um, so next we're gonna talk about Ace Nitty. Ace Nitty, sometimes called the Notorious A, was one of Mobile's first signings, teaming up with the label head Ivory Mobile Joe Pains to form the lower level organization. It's clear that for Mobile Joe, rapping was a hobby. He's stilted and offbeat to the point that he's often closer to spoken word. Nitty, though, was more adept and capable of some inspired moments lyrically and sartorially. It appears that Nitty, for reasons unknown, chose to wear an eye patch like Slick Rick. It's barely visible on the art for the group's releases. The first EP, Wanted by Five, Oh, Feared by Most, in 1992, and the full length Straight from the Woods, 1994. But Nitty's eyewear is on full display in the promotional only low budget video for Portrait of a Villain. Nitty, who is pictured in a fake mug shot without the accessory, plays an unrepentant, cold blooded version of himself, killing a cop, a witness, and a potential competitor for a mate before a suitable uh before trial sees him walk free. Former label mate Lil Ruthless of Ruthless Juveniles commented on the video, Throwback Mobile Records, my nigga Ace Nitty. Sadly, the above appears to be the sole firsthand quote that even remotely testifies to Ace Nitty's existence. The internet contains virtually no information on him aside from his music, and Nitty was murdered in 1997. So, we're going back again to a time of dirty cops um, who were taking bribes, and the city was just on one. So that was Ace Nitty. MC Thick is the next artist we're gonna get into. MC Thick, like Ace Nitty, was from the West Bank, the best bank. And though he wasn't a mobile signee, the Marrero rapper, like the area's representative label, was mostly immune from bounce sound that was gathering momentum across the muddy bend of the Mississippi River. Thick, suitably named considering his grandeur figure, burst onto the New Orleans rap scene in 1991 with Marrero. What the fuck they be yelling, Marrero, Marrero, is akin to much of the area's rap at the time, which derived its regional specificity more from lyrics, in this case, local drug fiends and law enforcement officers mentioned by name, than it did its production. And then they did the I forgot what they call it. Um, golly, it's gonna come to me. But according to an August 1989 Times Picayune article cited in Matt Miller's Bounce rap music, and local identity in New Orleans. The record sold 3,000 copies locally. Its success garnered the attention of Atlantic Records, who'd reissue the single, and 2 years later, Thick's debut album, The Show Ain't Over Till the Fat Man Swings, on their Big Beat subsidiary. Perhaps more unusual than a Marrero rapper releasing an album on a major label was a Marrero rapper with two George Clinton features and a Bun B guest verse, all for his second album, 1996's Now What You Think. This was part of Clinton's unusual run of guest appearances, which included Atlanta rapper Kilo Ali and The Last Poet. It'd be his final effort. Thick was murdered the same year. And I love that song. I love that song. And I can definitely see that rappers such as, well, Chopper, Chopper Style. He's from Marrero. Um, and the last I knew, he lived not too far from the Marrero projects. I don't know if he still lives in that same house or not, but I know he was living not too far from the Marrero projects still. And what is this guy's name? He acted in Boys in the Hood. He was the little dude that was creeping across. Oh, he was also in uh Players Club. The dude that raped Ebony. That R word Ebony. Oops. My bad. He's the dude that R word Ebony. Um in Players Club. Cappuccino. He from Marrero too. Uh, let's move on to Kilo G. Kilo G. In 1991, with New Orleans in the midst of a bounce craze, brothers Ronald Slim and Brian Baby Williams decided to start up a rap label named for a fictional gang, New Jack City's Cash Money Brothers. Instead of catering to the nascent subgenre they sold from their respective car trunks, a cassette by 15-year-old Kilo G that hardly recalled the buoyancy of a TT Tucker and DJ Irv's local sensation. Where they at? 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 It seems New Orleans wasn't ready for the near horrorcore of the 1992 The Sleepwalker. The cassette only sold a few thousand copies despite the teenage Kilo G's mature performance. The following year, Manny Fresh was recruited to be Cash Money's in-house producer, and in 1995, he produced the entirety of Kilo G's first full length, The Bloody City. While The Sleepwalker is raw and a bit unvarnished lyrically, The Bloody City is a more accomplished and polished record. Kilo G is less frantic. Fresh's production is lush, and guest Pimp C and Bun B shine on separate songs. It's possible that were Kilo G allowed to fully mature, he would have been the city's correlative to UGK, spitting outsized tales of criminality and grounded street knowledge. He never got the chance. In January 1997, Kilo G was sitting in his Seventh Ward home when an unknown assailant shot him to death. He was only 20 years old. He was survived by his girlfriend Lakeisha and their infant son, Robert Johnson III. Rest in peace, Kilo G. That was my song. Before I move on, we're gonna move on to G Slim. But before I move on to G Slim, let me just because I was supposed to make a second part to my argument about Manny Fresh, about how there should be this Manny Fresh and KLC versus the battle of the boot, producer on producer. Um, and when I looked at their um discographies, and kind of put them side by side. Now I was holding KLC shit in my hand, and it was a lot of pages. And I had Freshest pulled up on my computer, and being around Cash Money since '99, and always, hearing that Fresh was Cash Money's in-house producer. He is their in-house producer. At first, I didn't understand what that meant. Um, and then I started getting, then I started hearing the stories. All of this is allegedly. The Fair Use Act is in the description box. Um, so all of this is alleged. But I started hearing that Fresh was the in-house producer and that he wasn't allowed to work with anyone outside of the Cash Money artist. And truly, I didn't understand what that meant um, at the time, even though I kept hearing it over and over again. And then with Juvenile, yeah, because they had signed, this was it before? I have to look it up. I have to look it up. So I'm gonna say allegedly, but I have to look up the dates. Um, Juvenile was offered a feature on a song from a group in Atlanta. Um, was it 112? Anyway, Lil Zane raps the rap on whatever the song was, but Juvenile was offered to rap that part, and allegedly, allegedly, they contacted Juvenile and his people to get him on the song, and Juvenile at that point allegedly wanted to branch out a little bit and had accepted the offer to rap that part on that song. And when it got back to Baby, Baby shut it down. He shut it down. Now, allegedly, if they didn't have a contract with, if the artist didn't have a contract with Cash Money Records until, I'll be able to tell y'all a date. Um, I could tell y'all the date. I can tell y'all the date. Um, because in the lawsuit that Wayne filed against, um, and y'all can see it. I don't know how good y'all can see it right here. Yeah, see at the top that shows you that this federal paperwork came from Pacer. You can see that the lawsuit is Lil Wayne versus Cash Money Records in the United States District Court of the Southern District of New York. And I do plan on posting some of the paperwork. I'm not going to post it all. It's 19 pages. But my reason for pulling the paperwork is because I wanted to confirm for myself, because I had always been told that a contract had never been signed at that time. There was no contract between Baby and Slim and the artist. Like we all childhood friends, whatever, whatever. We're gonna do this shit on a handshake. We're gonna do it verbally, whatever, whatever. And I pulled the paperwork. This is the federal paperwork for the lawsuit that was filed by Lil Wayne against Cash Money Records. And I pulled the paperwork because I wanted to see if it was in the paperwork the date that Wayne signed his first contract, signed a contract with Cash Money Records. And I don't know if y'all can see this, but I am going to post it right here. Y'all should be able to see that date of November the 1st. See it? November the 1st, 1998. Um, that says Carter and Cash Money entered into a written recording agreement pursuant to which Carter agreed to provide exclusive recording services to Cash Money Records. And um, that is when that contract was signed. And then if you go here, I want y'all to look right there. My finger. Right there. Y'all see that date right there? That date says on or about February the 20th, 2003, Carter and Cash Money entered into a self-styled memorandum of agreement for the creation of Young Money Label, a joint venture for the common purpose of the manufacture, distribution, promotion, and exploitation of recordings containing the performances of new recording artists who would be signed to Young Money Label following approval by Carter and Cash Money, the sole owners of the joint venture. This last line down here that I want y'all to see, because I said I'm not going to show y'all everything, but y'all see that split right there? 51%, 49%. Guess who owns 51% of Young Money? It ain't Lil Wayne. Um, it's a lot of interesting stuff in that paperwork, but that's not what my channel is here for. I like to come with, if I'm gonna tell y'all a date, I like to be able to give y'all, the date where I found it, where you can go and find it if you choose to go and look it up, because I always encourage you to do your own homework. And this paperwork is the filing when Wayne filed the lawsuit. A lot of pages are restricted, you can't get to them. And then the lawsuit ended up being settled out of court. Whatever they did it out of court. So there's not a lot of paperwork available for all of you that will run to Pacer and try to pull this paperwork. I'm telling you, there's not a lot of paperwork there. You'll get this 19 pages that I have um, of the filing of the lawsuit of Wayne against Cash Money. So, but yeah, that was I don't know how I got off on that tangent, but I was trying to tell a story about how Fresh um could have been more than just a local producer had he been allowed to produce for other people. But once he was labeled the in-house producer for Cash Money Records, it limited his reach. he wasn't able to go outside of the group and produce for anyone until the breakup of Cash Money started happening. And people started going their separate ways. So KLC, um, even though he moved to Baton Rouge, when P and them moved to Baton Rouge and he ended up going there with them, KLC still worked with other people. KLC still produced for other people. It wasn't just, no limit. KL did produced for Juvenile, KL produced for BG. Like, um, so KL produced for Turk too. So KL pretty much worked with all them niggas. So that's why I said it would be a good versus battle against KL and Fresh. Um, because even though KL is from here in New Orleans, when P and them moved to Baton Rouge, P bought all his dudes' houses and stuff out there, and they all moved to Baton Rouge, and so KL didn't live. He didn't live over where P put the artist. KL lived on the other side of Highland, over by Blue Bayou, over there off the little service road. Um, so let's get into G Slim. Before G Slim's murder, his star was on the rise. His solo album Four Deuces and Trays, released by Big Boy Records, had piqued the interest of Relativity Records, who planned on reissuing it with 3 additional tracks. Relativity was serious about rap music. The label inked distribution deals with Regional Power, Suave House, and Ruthless Records in the mid 1990s. The appeal of G Slim's debut to a major label was clear. It had more in common with the in vogue G Funk than it did with Bounce. Um, According to Bob Ussery of the Times Picayune, on October 13th, 1996, the Algiers rapper and 3 friends were walking to the store when someone opened fire on the group. One man was shot in the ankle, the other in his calf, but G Slim was shot a single time in the back and died at New Orleans Charity Hospital. His mother told Ussery that he expressed worry about jealousy over his newfound success. G Slim was only 22 years old. They was all babies, all still babies, gone too soon. We don't even speak their names pretty much anymore. Um, let's go on to Yellow Boy. Tech Nine and Lil Ya were established as UNLV, Uptown Niggas Living Violent. Before Yellow Boy joined the group, cassettes for their first single, Another Bitch, issued by Cash Money, had reached Houston and Atlanta, but a major problem arose. Me and my mom was having problems during that time, and she kicked me out the house. So I went and lived with Yellow and his mom. Tech Nine told a journalist, when I was staying with Yellow, he kind of said, "Put me in the group, or you gotta go." Ain't that some shit, y'all? UNLV's latecomer shone brightest on their infamous "Drag 'em in the River," an entirely unambiguous diss aimed at Mystical. Though it was included on the group's Uptown for Life, Yellow Boy is the sole member to rap on the incendiary song, in which he threatens to dump Mystical's corpse in the yard of Big Boy Records owner Charles Temple. There seems to be disagreement between Tech Nine and Lil Ya about the severity of the group's beef with Mystical. The former told Welch it was serious. The latter claims it was prearranged. Um, I see that I want to say I saw a interview Lil Ya did. I don't know. I have to go back and watch the interviews because I know um they're doing interviews and stuff now. So that's something that I would have to look for, since one of them is saying that the beef was serious and one saying that it was prearranged. Yeah. I have to watch some interviews and see about that, what they say in 2023. Because Yellow Boy's 1997 murder remains unsolved, rumors of Brian Williams's involvement are persistent. The heroin addicted Yellow Boy is said to have pistol whipped Williams. Tech Nine says he shot up his house, and as retribution, the 23-year-old was killed while sitting in a car. Tech Nine told Welch, overall, it's some street shit, and I try to leave it at that. The streets took him. He was very different from us in that he really did live in what he talked about in his music. Now, allegedly, allegedly, what I heard, well, what I still hear today, um, ever since I moved to New Orleans, I've heard about how the feds been trying to get baby, been trying to get baby. Um, and allegedly, I know y'all know who Cash Money Vamp is, or at least the majority may know because they've been doing these crime shows on what's the VH1. I think Monica is the host, and so they just did one on Cash Money Vamp. Now, when the office was still over in Metairie before it moved to Kenner, um, that's where I first met Vamp at the office. And I really didn't know who he was from a can of paint, but the people who I was close with in my circle, and I'm not going to name names, but the people who I was close with told me allegedly that Vamp had took a bullet for baby. Um, and I'm saying allegedly because I talked to Vamp many times. Many times. Vamp had been at my house. Vamp still has a Cash Money tape for me. Vamp, I'ma need my tape back, boy. Um, and we never talked about it. So I never heard it come out of Vamp's mouth that he so say took a bullet for baby, but it was told to me that Vamp had taken a bullet in the head for baby. Um, how true that is, I don't know. It could be a myth, a legend. It could be true. It could be false. I don't know. But that's what I was told back in 99, 99, 2000, somewhere around that time, is what I was told. And I call Vamp Clarence. Um, that Clarence had took a bullet in the head for baby. Um, and I don't know. All of this was before I moved to New Orleans. So I don't know. All I know is the stuff that I was told. And all these years later is something I was told, something that I heard. I don't know if it had anything to do with this. Um, but we just gonna leave it at that. Our next artist is the Everlasting Hitman. And this is another artist where there's little public information about him. And he had done an interview with downsouth.com, and Sporty T said of Hitman that TT Tucker used to always come around these gong shows and doing bounce, and I can't stand his music. Then the Everlasting Hitman did a song that night. He was like, my little partner, when he came, I started appreciating it. Lil Yah told Welch that Hitman was one of the first people I knew who started doing gangster rap in the bars. And when discussing his life with Tulane University doctoral student Holly Hobbs, Tucker said, I don't really like to focus on the bad situations because I get in my feelings. Talking about Soldier Slim, Everlasting Hitman, that's the original crew. Work that back. Holla if you hear me. And bounce, baby, bounce. That's the entirety of Everlasting Hitman's discography. As Sporty T more bluntly noted, Bounce Baby Bounce was a more lyrical version of then recently established tropes. Bounce, particularly in the early years, had an extremely limited sonic and lyrical palette, and Hitman is one of the markers of its departure from sing-songy chats. Um, yeah, Everlasting Hitman, rest in peace, man. Hitman was murdered in the since demolished West Bank's Fisher Housing Development on February 3rd, 1996. That's that 1.5. That 1.5. He was only 21 years old. For a paragraph long obituary, Mobile Records co owner Kenneth Taylor told Offbeat magazine that he was real inspirational when it came down to music. He was a leader, and he helped young, aspiring artists. Um, Again, another young one, 21 years old, and three memorable songs that we can credit him with. But he left us again at a really early age. So let's talk about Pimp Daddy. Pimp Daddy. Pimp Daddy is the reason I started listening to the New Orleans sound. I'm from I'm from over there, down the bayou, down in the bayous. Um, I'm from the country. So when I first started hearing New Orleans music, I'm from the country by way of Detroit. So I grew up in Motown. Um, but being in the country, when I first heard New Orleans bounce, New Orleans music, it was via Pimp Daddy. My brother used to play this mess all the time. So I ain't have no other choice but to kind of sit up and take notice from this. Uh, so in an interview with Sean Sotero of the Cypher podcast, former Cash Money artist Lil Slim, not to be confused for Magnolia Slim, Soldier Slim's early alias, said that he and Pimp Daddy would see their names graffitied in other neighborhoods and that friends would joke that they were the original Hot Boys. Although Pimp Daddy made his Cash Money debut on Slim's The Game is Cold, his 1993 hit Got to Be Real was actually issued on Pack Records. This version, later remixed for Pimp's first full length, has a unique moment. There's a 1 minute interlude in which the beat changes to a bounce sample of Undisputed Truth's I Know I'm Losing You, made popular the year prior by Snoop Doggy Dogg and Dr. Dre's Deep Cover. Still Pimpin', Pimp's debut, released the following year, also had a view to music outside of New Orleans, splitting roughly 50-50 between bounce and straight gangster rap. And that's what made Pimp Daddy unique. Um, on April 18th, 1994, Pimp Daddy was shot in the now demolished Florida projects by a relative of a supposed girlfriend's. Rumors about his demise, most of which point at Pimp's supposed infidelities and fellow Bounce star Cheeky Black, claiming to have birthed his child. Lil Slim said of Pimp Daddy's murder that he got killed in the streets. Cash Money paid for the funeral. What I'm saying is Pimp Daddy has kids. He has a son, Lil Pimp, over there in New Orleans. Cash Money Records need to compensate Lil Pimp for what his dad's done for them. When Pimp Daddy died homeless. He used to stay from house to house by his girlfriends. He wasn't but 18 years old. 18. It's like they're getting younger and younger. But Again, look at the era of corrupt police department. Um, they weren't doing what they were supposed to do on the streets. If they was doing what they were supposed to do on the streets, they might be the ones who do you. I'm just saying. Next up, we're gonna talk about Warren Mays. And Warren Mays had 8 siblings, and he was raised in the fourth ward. I'm from Iberville Parish. I say Iberville. Here in New Orleans, they say Iberville. So forgive me if I slip into saying Iberville. Don't correct me. I know they say Iberville out here, so I'll say Iberville just for that sake. Um, So Warren Mays was raised in the Iberville projects. Like Sporty T, Mays began rapping before New Orleans had its own flavor. Had his self-produced debut doing them right. Not born, a Baton Rouge address, and a New Orleans area code on the label. It could have easily been confused for the work of a New Yorker. Mays' hustles were myriad. He not only rapped about he not only rapped, but he produced for others. He promoted shows. His brother Travis Lyons told journalist Alan Fernstock that he was the first to bring Run DMC, Dougie Fresh, and LL Cool J to the city. And according to his daughter G Baby, stripped. Mays' work Mays' work paid off. DJ Captain Charles told Hobbs that he and Mays had discussed the local popularities of songs that involved the crowd, particularly Too Short's I Ain't Trippin'. And about 6 months later, his friend brought him a cassette. Charles played the cassette, Giddy Girl, at a family day at A.L. Davis Park, and after judging the reaction, told his friend he'd made a hit. Charles was right. With Giddy Girl, Mays' popularity increased to the point that his dancers' curled ponytails became highly fashionable, and Atlantic Records took notice. There's some pro New Orleans flavor in the song. Mays' chant of astrological signs are a through line to bounce rappers, shouting out specific neighborhoods and housing projects. Although it be the only Mays single Atlantic would issue, it made him the first New Orleans rapper to release a record on a major label. On July 31st, 1999, unfortunately, Mays was shot and killed in his car when leaving a club. Though the Times-Picayune obituary listed the noted Lothario as having sired 13 children, that number is incorrect. G Baby, who continued his rap legacy, told Hobbs that Mays fathered. Y'all ready for this? I don't think y'all ready. 21 children. Like, how the fuck you lose 8 children? Shit, Warren. Now, this the one we right at the end. This the one that's gonna hurt the most because this is the most. I don't want to say most recent, but I guess this was to me the worst. The fact that it's a female, it just hit different. It hit different. I don't know how it's gonna hit for y'all, but it hit different for me. Um, so the last artist we're gonna talk about is Magnolia Shorty. I love Shorty. I love her music. My children ain't have no business listening to her music, but that was the first time I had heard Monkey on the Dick. When my children were listening to it and had got whooped behind it. Yes, they did. Tore that ass up. Um, so in 1996, Cash Money had begun moving away from bounce. The BGs, BG, then Lil Doogie, and Lil Wayne, or Baby D, released gangster rap standard Chopper City, UNLV, the aforementioned Uptown for Life, and resident singer and girlfriend to Pimp Daddy, Miss T, recorded the bounce R&B synthesis Female Baller. But just behind the shift in paradigm was the foul-mouthed Magnolia Shorty. whose monkey on the dick kept the label's bounce heritage alive, if only briefly. Monkey on the Dick was like practically every Cash Money song from that era. It was produced by Manny Fresh. Fresh told Complex that the 14-year-old shorty brought a cheerleading squad to the studio with her, and surrounded by rowdy friends, the precocious rapper recorded the song in a single take. Shorty did her thing. She went in there, she did what she had to do. She got the fuck. Go ahead, Shorty. There's magic in Shorty's callousness. It was her first recording session, and the song probably benefited from her inexperience and her edge. Interestingly, Fresh recycled a major portion of the instrumental for Juvenile's Back That Ass Up, released in 1998. Magnolia Shorty was driving with noted ne'er do well James Hampton in the passenger seat when the two were shot to death in the small hours of December 20th, 2010. Um, she was leaving her house. Um, I'll read the rest of that, but she was leaving her house. She had a show in Pensacola, I believe, somewhere in Florida. She had a show to do. And um, this guy, I guess she asked him to go to the show with her. And so she had him in the car with her. As she was leaving her house, there was a gate um, to come in and go out. As she got to that gate to go out the gate, the hitters were already right there. It's like the hitters knew. And so it was like the hitters were right there. Um, so now I'm just kind of clarifying what they had in the media, um, that she was driving. She really hadn't gotten to the point of full out driving yet. She was leaving her apartment complex, and was just going through the gate when the hitters were right there. Um, Juvenile remembered his slain friend. When I think about her, I think about how small she was with a big voice and how brave she was as a woman, going to some of the areas she went to and getting on the mic and making her songs. Fresh added that she was a person who didn't have an enemy in the world, who always greeted you with a smile. So to have this happen to her was shocking. And it was shocking. I can remember when it came on the news that she had been deleted. Um, I thought maybe they had the wrong person. I kept hoping they would come on the news and say they had the wrong person, that they misidentified her, because once they said that, she had been shot like 20 something times or however many, it was a lot for a woman. And that's what made me think that, it's impossible. Like, this cannot be possible. Why would someone shoot her that many times? But once you found out, um, I believe they called the guy Man Man. Once you found out she was in the car with him, um, that he was the target and not her. Um, but it was shocking to hear, um, for any celebrity, for them to come on the news or the radio or whatever, and you're not expecting, for them to say what they're saying. Um, it was just terrible, um, what happened to her, and unfortunate. But as with this whole list that I just went through, um, uh, all of these guys, how they say if you make it to C25, in which A lot of the people that I see that are on social media these days, and they're doing the interviews, and I'm glad. Whatever they choose to talk about, I don't even care. Shit, you could talk about the sky is blue. Just the fact that they're still here uh, kind of warms my heart. The fact that, they made it. They made it past 21, 25, 30, 40. Shit. Something I may have done a video that I haven't dropped yet that I call Juvia OG, because I'm like, okay, this is a 25th year anniversary for his song Back That Ass Up and the album 400 Degrees. This is a 25th year anniversary of that song. Like, I have video of Juvie, like his clothes was too big, like shit falling off of him, like like little kid to nut. Um, and to now be able to call him an OG in the rap game, and it warms my heart whenever I um turn on YouTube or whatever, and they're showing the concerts he's doing. It warms my heart to see him out there doing those concerts and stuff, but the shit this man had to go through. The shit this man had to go through to get to where he is in his life now, to where, doing he's able to do a tour. BET better be giving some fucking awards out. They better be giving out some awards. Because they were the first group, the first label to sign and be able to keep their rights. They were able to keep the rights to their music. Um and they paved the way for other rappers to be wealthy, to have wealth, know what wealth is. Because every rapper on this list that I just read to you died homeless. Um, Cash Money had to pay for their funerals, So these guys, even though they were pioneers in the game, um, guys like Juvenile carry it, is not only carrying a torch for himself, he's carrying the torch for Magnolia Shorty. I ain't gonna say he carrying the torch for Sporty T. He probably said, fuck that nigga. But, just saying. Um, but he's still carrying the torch for those who came before him. Um, and they were able to go out and secure the bag and be able to do what they did with the bag. But, I don't know how much of this paperwork, again, I don't know how much of this paperwork I'm going to drop from this lawsuit. But I'm going to tell y'all this. Allegedly, they talk about, Stunner and the money. And I've heard Juvenile say, I don't know if it was an interview. I think I heard on an interview that Juvenile said that, him and Stunner, they worked everything out, and everything's all good. Whoop de whoop, whatever, whatever. But in order for him to say that they talked, they made arrangements, whatever, they worked everything out, and that's admitting that there was a problem with the money. And whether Baby gave him all of the money he was owed, part of the problem was, if you ain't have a contract until November 1998, then everything that happened prior to November 1998, you don't know how much this nigga owed you. And you can't just pull a number out of thin air and just throw it at him. Um, I was Whew, child. I was at the office many days. It's like I was a taxi cab for some of these guys. I did a video about the Shoney's Inn. Um, I have to go through that. I think I said in the video that I was there when Sporty T died. I meant to say there's another guy that was in the juvenile disc, the juvenile cash money disc video. There's another guy that was in that video. He was the one that came up missing, not Sporty T. So I said that wrong. That's why I held that video back because I need a chance to correct myself, but I can put it in the description box. Um, that I stand corrected on that. And I have to get the little guy's name, but he was the one that came up missing, not Sporty T. Um, but a lot of times the crew, the clique, would be housed at um Shoney's Inn. It's like Shoney's Inn was the base of operations for everything. Um when I first met them. And I met them in 1998. Um so it seems like Shoney's Inn was the base of operations for everything. The guys that worked for for them, it's like if he kept them, the sharks, if he kept the sharks at the Shoney's Inn, he would know where they were. If he kept the artists at Shoney's Inn, he would know where they were because they're all here. They're at Shoney's Inn. The office is just like right across the way, so they're close to the office. Um, but it also gave them a place to stay. Like if you back in the Magnolia, you might be on the street or whatever, or going from pillar to post. But at least if you at the Shoney's Inn, you got a bed to sleep in. And Shoney's, the little restaurant, was right there, but niggas went to Danny and Clyde's a lot. Um, a lot of times I know with Turk and BG, that would be two that you could never find. Like they would not be at that hotel. They had to be in their hoods. Um, so you wouldn't see too much of them at that hotel. Turk would try and make his way back to that Noya, and BG would make his way back uptown, and so that's two that you will hardly ever see. If they were leaving, if the tour bus was leaving from there, it's like they would wait until the last minute to come. But they wouldn't stay at a room over there. They would catch their ride and catch their cut. Um, but yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll drop that video because I did go to Shoney's Inn. I wanted to show everyone where Cash Money was when I first met them. Um, and now it's in the process of being either remodeled or torn down. So that's a big part of their legacy. Um, not, legacy, I guess, isn't the word. Maybe their history. A big part of their history, because they spent a lot of time at that damn hotel. Um, and it's being torn down now, and I was sad. I was so sad when I went there. Um, it's like when I pulled up um the front desk, I it's like it put me back in 1998, 1999, and I could see baby standing in the lobby paying for the rooms, or getting the rooms for everybody. Um, I could uh, see him, put myself back in that mindset when he was a little chunky nigga. Um, I could see him back. back there doing that. When I went back around to the back of the hotel, the tour buses would be parked all the way in the back. It's like, my dude not here no more. So of course I kind of shed a little tear. Um, but I like as soon as I walked back there, it's like I could see those tour buses back there. Um, wow, I'm kind of getting emotional. I'm gonna have to go. Um, but I hope you all enjoyed this video um, on remembering other pioneers of the rap game from New Orleans and, letting you all know or reminding you of how they were violently taken from us in an age where New Orleans had big problems, major problems, even with the police. Um, and they wouldn't live to make it to 20, 22, 23, 25. And it's such a shame. Who knows what music in New Orleans would look like today had these artists survived. Um, who knows if Cash Money and No Limit would have went on to be as big as they were had these artists survived. I mean, we don't know. We'll never know. Um, but I'm glad out of tragedy, at least we did get a No Limit and a Cash Money. Even though we had to go through so many tragic situations to get these big money deals on the table for these beloved artists of the city. Um, so I'm glad I was able to do this video because I love these artists. I love these songs. What's the guy's name? Shoot, the one who sang "Back the Thing Up, Back the Thing Up, but back up, back up, back up, back up, back the thing up." Um, it just goes to show you, like, everything in New Orleans is just crossing with each other because that guy, and I can't think of his name, but he was my kid's teacher. He teaches, or he was teaching at that time at West Jefferson High School, and he was my kid's teacher, and he would always throw stuff for the kids, and he would perform. Um, who else was a teacher at that school? Was it Roxy? Somebody who was on BET was also a teacher at that school. And in earlier videos, I told you guys that my daughter, my middle daughter, and Juvenile's brother's son graduated together from West Jefferson High School. They were classmates and they graduated together. Um, Even though I had met Juvenile like years before, and it was just crazy that they ended up at the same school together and graduated together. So I do have, a few little personal uh, things in there. Like, so there is a connection that I have to New Orleans, even though I'm a transplant. There's a connection that's there. And I love learning new things. And some of these artists, it's like you just know they made your favorite song and bam, they're dead. They're not here anymore. And just like in this article, it says that a couple of them, you can't really find anything. It's almost as if the internet has been scrubbed of information about them. Um, So, but I just wanted to put a spotlight on artists other than Soldier Slim, and Cash Money Vamp, because those two cases have been on, well, at least Cash Money Vamp has been on First 48. Soldier Slim's deletion has been on other channels. But all these others we kind of tend to forget about and just kind of stroll past them. So that's what I wanted to do. Put their stories back out there, make their families know that, they're not forgotten. Even though they were definitely taken from us way too young. Lives were cut way too short. Um, and Gregory D, as I said, Gregory D, he's still, if you don't follow Gregory D, go find Gregory D on Facebook, on Instagram, on um Twitter, and follow Gregory D. The man guy, he'll make you laugh. If you're having a bad day, Gregory D will make you laugh. So go follow Gregory D. Support Juvenile's Tiny Desk concert. I know I don't look at his stuff often, but I know the last time I looked at it, he was asking people what songs he should perform on a Tiny Desk concert. And of course, people were giving him the most popular songs, but some of his songs I love from him were not mainstream songs. So of course, the Tiny Desk concert I feel incomplete to someone like me who's familiar with a lot of his work that didn't make the radio, or what have you. But I still love Project. I'm sure they might not let you sing Project Bitch, but if you could do Project Bitch. Um, Another song I haven't really heard y'all do. Shoot, it might be time to do another remix. Tell the club up thugs, kicking it with the hot boys, cause our weapons weigh a ton. Then we came to bring the noise. Shit, Juvie, you say when she came so fucking close to me, I thought it was on. It might be time to make another remix to that. Have y'all thought about that? Where y'all at, 3-6 Mafia? Where y'all at, Cash Money? Shoot, it's time to make the 2023 version. Shit, 3-6, y'all done made so many versions of it already. Let's just drop the 2023 version. That's all I'm saying. Cause that song, shoot, it might be 25. Well, that version of the song, it might be 25 years old too. Um, but I love the video because they had some real Memphis chicks in that video. If y'all have not seen the video, oh my gosh. Maybe I'll put that in the description box too. So y'all can watch that video because I love that song. I love that version of the song. Um, I did get the opportunity to meet 3-6 Mafia when they came down to record the song. Um, they all came in whispers, and I just kept saying, "I want to meet the dude with the thing in his nose, with the little thing in his nose." That was just me, like, and so I did get to meet them when they came down. So yeah, y'all need. That's my. I'm gonna do a video short on that, and I'm gonna go on ahead and send that to Juicy J. That they need to make the 2023 version of Tell the Club Up with Cash Money. It's time to remake that. BG about to get out of jail too. Like, let's go on ahead and make that happen. So I'm gonna go on ahead. I'm gonna do a short video on that right after this, and I'm gonna pop that one on Instagram, and we gonna see if we can get that popping too. That's all I have for tonight. If you watched this video, I appreciate it. I just wanted to get this information out there. Again, I'm not on that stuff. This is just my anxiety. Got my nose going crazy. And my Benadryls is all the way in the other room. So I can't get some. But if y'all could take me doing this the whole video, because my nose is itching like a mug, um, then I fucks with you. So I hope you appreciate this video. Please like it, share it, and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it. Um, and next time, um, I think next time I do want to do another road trip. I want to show y'all where the old office was um, before it was moved off of Airline Highway. So I want to show y'all where the old office was. I'm not going to show y'all where they moved the new office to. I'm going to keep that under wraps. Um, but the old office, I'll see if I can do a live video from there. And also I wanted to go to the lakefront, because in the Shoney's Inn video, I talk about the three places where if you came to New Orleans and you wanted to find Cash Money, one of three places you could have went to, and you was definitely gonna find a couple of these niggas. Shoney's Inn, for sure. You was gonna find a couple of them there. The Magnolia. You could go to the Noya, you might see the PT crew. If you knew who Miss Tammy was, if you go by Miss Tammy house, you gonna find some of them. Okay. In the lakefront. On a Sunday, have your ass at the lakefront, and you was gonna find them. So it was one of three places you was gonna find them. So um I can do the lakefront and just talk about how they used to come with their cars and park, and how the police used to block it off for them and all of that good stuff. Um, and then the office, show y'all where the office was, and I'll show y'all the place where Juvie got his. Um, I just saw that picture. This truck right here. Um, this is the truck Juvie had before they signed the deal to Universal. And see, it's not tricked out or anything, just plain Jane truck. But after they got that check, he took the truck um to the place over on Vets, not far from Cafe Du Monde, and they tricked it out. He ended up getting it painted. They put the speakers in the back with Juvenile across it. So he really tricked it out. So I could show y'all that place too. Um, I have to be careful about some stuff. Um, I could show y'all where um baby's baby mama um used to live in some apartments. And it was late one night. He took us um over there. He must have called her and told her he was coming. And she cooked. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. She got fried chicken, macaroni, and cheese. Like, God damn. And it was a shitload of us. And it was at that point that I knew I was in with them niggas, because it's like, damn, I'm sitting here at this baby mama house. Like, what the fuck? I'm in. I'm made. Um, so maybe we'll do something like that, because I'm just trying to show y'all different parts of, I guess, their history. I do have some pictures of his house in Eastover. I have pictures of the house in Eastover, pictures of his cars, the stretch PT Cruiser, um, what was that other thing? Was it a stretch excursion? Um, the house. Now I have to see. I have to see if I'm able to get into English turn. I don't currently have I lost a lot of pictures when Katrina happened, when Hurricane Katrina happened. I lost a lot of pictures and stuff. But if I'm able to get into English turn is Eastover was in New Orleans East. And I call that the party house over in New Orleans East because that's where they had all the parties and shit at. Nigga had the hot tub in the living room. Um, English turn is what I called, and I could be wrong. Don't nobody go run and tell baby I said this because I could be wrong, but it's what I considered their main residences. Because in English turn, where they lived in a cul-de-sac, and Slim's house was right here and baby's house was right here. Like they was across the cul-de-sac from each other. Like they could walk out of each other's house, walk out of their house and shout at each other across the street. That's how their houses were. I never I might have had pictures of those houses. I might have. But again, Katrina took a lot of my stuff. Um, but I can try to get access to English turn and see if I can go and get pictures of the houses that they were in that subdivision. Um, I'll try. I'll try. Because right now I'm all about good road trips. My next big road trip is going to be I'm going to Minnesota, to Prince's house, June the 7th through the 12th. So I'll be gone for 5 days to see Prince's house. Um, so I'm all about a good road trip. I plan on documenting. They don't allow video devices in his home, so I wouldn't be able to video anything from inside the home, but I would be able to do video and take pictures of his compound from outside. Um, but not able to take cameras inside. So that's something that's on my list to put out on the channel at a future date. So, but that's all I have for tonight. I'll make the quick video about um Tell a Club Up Thugs and see if we get some kind of response to that. So again, thank you for everyone who watches this video. I definitely appreciate you. Have a good night.